So assuming you draw every bit of money out of your limited company, the worst tax rate you might see is a horrible 63.71. And anyone who was here last year will have seen that number before. But that hasn't changed. But what has changed is that self-employment has now had a tax cut. So actually, there's a disparity between the two. So I often get the question, what's better, a limited company or a partnership? Well, the worst possible tax rate for a partnership or self-employed business is now 62%. But that's still the top rate. So this time last year, I did a calculation and I said at £84,000, a limited company reaches the top of where it saves tax if you're drawing every bit of profit out. So now, if we look at the tax rates, now you've got the national insurance cut in there and say, if you had £84,000 of profit in a limited company business compared to a self-employed business, what does that now say for the tax saving? And actually, a partnership or self-employed business is now saving £1,300 of tax compared to a limited company. So self-employment is now more tax efficient than a limited company, which is quite striking at £84,000. It's not a huge profit figure for a business. So at what point does a limited company stop being tax efficient compared to self-employment? Zero. Apart from a couple of tiny little blips and quirks in the tax system, if you're drawing every bit of profit out of your business, a self-employed business will now be more tax efficient, which is a very striking thing to be faced with in the tax system. Now, I do apologise, there's a graph here, and at the back, it's just going to be a couple of blurred lines. But just to walk you through what this graph is doing. So this graph shows you the net income you would get from three types of structure. The black line at the top, which just sort of evenly goes up, roughly, that is your net income from a self-employed business as profits increase along the axis at the bottom. So you can see that that remains the highest way of getting net income out of the business if you're drawing every penny out of that business. The red line, which starts trying to keep up with the black line and then starts to tail off, that is if you draw everything out of a limited company through a small salary and dividends. You can see that it just about holds its own, but not quite at the initial stages. And then once you get to about £110,000, it starts to tail off and come down towards the blue line. Now, the blue line is, I've put that in there because another question that I often get is, should I be taking all of my income from my company via a salary? And this blue line is the reason why I say generally that's not going to be the best structure to use. Because in terms of net income, because the personal tax rates are that much higher for a salaried income, it means your net income will be less than it would be through salary and dividends. So that's where this blue line is. You can see once you get into the higher ends, you've got £305,000 of profit that you're trying to take it all as a salary. There's not a lot of difference there. You're getting into territory where you really need tailored advice there. But I hope that this helps pin some of these ideas on, because the calculations underlying it are a little bit too complicated.